listening to Sports Radio Detroit. Welcome to Grave Discussions. I am one half of your perilous host duo, Barnabas.
And I am the other half, Samael.
And welcome back, Gravers, to your favorite horror podcast on the airwaves. We've missed you so much, and we've missed just sitting here and talking to one another. It's been quite a while, unfortunately. But, we couldn't stay gone forever.
It's been almost, what now? Like, when did quarantine start? March?
Yeah, like March of last year. And then we ended up doing those 2 special episodes. And then it's been like all of 2021 so far, unfortunately, where we haven't recorded a single episode. But we're changing that now. So we are back. Life happens, Samael moved. I've been going through some stuff, so it just hasn't worked out, but we're here tonight. It is Wednesday, November 17th, and we are recording this episode for you guys, and we're going to hope to come back and do like at least minimum like 2 episodes a month, maybe more. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but we're going to get this one out, and it's going to be a good time.
I can't wait, dude. We got to get back into our groove. I've missed this. I miss doing this every single week. It was like the highlight of my week. Every single week, we would just sit down, record our podcast, put on a movie.
Yeah, man. Well, this episode 99. We're going to have a good one for you guys. And then the next episode is going to be our 100 episode anniversary, which I'm pretty damn stoked for. This episode, we're going to have a pretty interesting conversation. This weekend is the release of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And recently we've been seeing a lot of movies and a lot of news about new projects coming out, which are kind of like essentially creating new content for existing franchises, prequels, sequels, even spin-offs, and like with Halloween Kills, for example, and Halloween Ends and that trilogy, kind of a retcon of, an established franchise. And so I think it's all very interesting. We're going to talk about what we think about it, whether it's good for the genre, and so much more. But first, of course, we do have to give a shout out to our gracious host network. I'm sure they've missed us too. Sports Radio Detroit. And Sam, if you remember where the people can find them, go for it.
I think you can find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SRD Sports Radio Detroit. That's SRD Sports Radio Detroit, not Detroit Sports Radio. You got to get it right.
You got to get it right. Yeah, that's right. And hey, man, you got it right. You haven't missed a beat. So I'm happy for you.
It's just so ingrained into my psyche.
I know. Yeah, it's like muscle memory at this point.
I swear.
So, yeah. All right, guys. So we're actually going to go ahead and let some of these promos run real quick. And then we're going to get into the rest of the show uninterrupted. So just sit back. We'll be back in like literally just 1 minute.
Hi, this is Chris.
And this is Roger.
And if you like Tigers baseball, Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, analytics, pop culture references, movies, sports, food, check us out. Look for Tigers SRD on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify.
And welcome back, fiends. So, the news. There's been a lot that we have obviously not covered since we went on our hiatus. I picked out a few of the most interesting recent developments. And this first one, at the very least, kind of has some relevance to our discussion today. Potentially not. I guess you can decide for yourselves. There is, I'm sure many of you have already heard, but we haven't talked about it yet. A new Hellraiser project coming out. This is going to be helmed by David Bruckner, who did The Night House and The Ritual on Netflix and a bunch of other stuff. What do you think about this, Sam?
I think it's going to be good for the franchise. I mean, the last few Hellraiser movies have been ass. You remember that like fucking round-faced motherfucker that was playing Hellraiser last time? And
Yeah.
now, they're kind of being a little bit trying to like make it a little bit more true to the books, having Pinhead's going to be a woman, which is pretty close because like in the books, from what I've read, other people saying he was pretty androgynous, or they were pretty androgynous. It was never said like Pinhead is a dude, I guess, or Pinhead is a woman, I guess, or Pinhead is no gender, I guess. So, I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, and then you get, the people, of course, people are going to be all over Facebook, saying, how about you just come up with original ideas, stop changing original characters? What if they made Freddy Krueger a woman? Yada, yada, yada. But I might get shit for this, but I don't think Pinhead is so iconic to the point where you can change his gender and have it really matter. If it was Bubba from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if it was Michael, if it was Freddy, if it was Jason, sure. But Pinhead, arguably, at least to me, he's not as iconic as them. So like, plus like Hell Priest, it was Hell Priest, not Pinhead in the fucking book. So like, I don't know how I really feel about it because I'm not a diehard fucking Hellraiser fan. I love the first two movies, and then after that, it kind of goes all over the place, as 80s franchises do. Part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's how they just get lost within themselves, which is what really needs to stop happening. And we've seen it happen less. Like, they've stopped numbering these horror movies. I mean, look at the new Scream coming out.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk more about Scream for sure in our primary discussion, because that does actually have some relevance to it. But I mean, I think you raise all really good points. And the one about, the sequels being ass, I think is very pertinent. And we will definitely cover that. Though I will say that this Hellraiser project doesn't have quite as much to do with kind of the topic of our episode as much, only because I would liken it to more of a reboot than like, adding new content to existing content.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's a new thing.
Yeah, exactly. But you're completely right. I mean, from my understanding, in the original like novella, it wasn't even Pinhead. Pinhead is like basically like a separate character that's based off of the Hell Priest in the novella. And the Hell Priest is kind of described, honestly, more as what you would consider a woman than a man. And, it isn't called Pinhead. So, I mean, I think most of the people that are getting upset are just, like fans of nostalgia or diehard Hellraiser fans of just the movie and not, the source material, or they simply just don't, or just boomers.
Boomers like, you can't change the gender. You can't do that. What if we made a movie about Obama and we made Matthew McConaughey play him? Like, okay, sir.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, like, people are calling it woke. It's really not that woke. It's more of like a more faithful adaptation of Clive Barker's work than actual Hellraiser was, which is weird, obviously, because he like directed it. But they also
this one.
Yeah, but again, he also kind of made Pinhead his own sort of character. So, yeah, I'm not really that concerned about it. So, Jamie Clayton is the actress who's going to be playing Pinhead. So I guess they're still calling it Pinhead. Again, whatever. I think that's just more so to actually draw people into the franchise and for marketing reasons than anything else. But from what I know, Jamie Clayton is actually transgender, so, that's cool. Some inclusive casting. And other than that, there really isn't too much other news. Basically, one of the quotes here says they pay homage to what the first film created, but then take it to places it's never been before. David and his team are steeped in the story's mythology, but what excites me is their desire to honor the original even as they revolutionize it for a new generation. So, I mean, that intent, I guess, kind of has some relevance to our theme, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. Again, the first two movies were really kind of the only ones that have like any significance to me, at least, or any quality. So
Swear.
yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see this.
I'm just worried because like they're making it for a new generation, but like the new generation, like they don't care about like the OGs of horror. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what the kids nowadays are mostly into is like creepy pastas and TikTok horror stories and like true crime serial killers and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have like like hardcore horror kids that got it passed down from their big brothers and their moms and their dads because their parents were hardcore fans like us. So I don't know. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see. I hope this franchise like stays alive and does not go into the direction of like shark jumping. I mean, like it would have been cool to see a TV show rather than a new movie because like at least like the TV show can create some sort of like longevity. At least if there's like
Mm-hmm.
13 episodes a season, like it can go on for longer. Besides like drop one movie and then be forgotten.
Yeah. Honestly, it depends on the narrative they go with, I guess. I mean, the movie could work, and obviously they can set it up to have sequels as well. But, we have kind of been seeing that the series idea can work. For example, Chucky. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, too. I don't know if you've seen any of the new series, Sam, but it's pretty good. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But I have faith in David Bruckner. I liked The Ritual. And I liked his stuff in VHS and Southbound and his other projects. So we'll just see what happens on that one. That one is going to be on Hulu exclusively, but there is no release date just yet. This next bit of news, I'm actually quite excited for as well. We've got a new series based on Edgar Allan Poe's stories. It's going to be called The Fall of the House of Usher, and it's got Netflix and Mike Flanagan, a match made in heaven.
I recently, passively for a few episodes, paid attention for the most part. I watched The Haunting of Bly Manor. Amazing.
Okay, yeah. I actually haven't seen that yet, but my girlfriend and I did just watch Midnight Mass recently.
I started it.
Okay. What episode are you on?
Last time I watched it, I was in Indianapolis, so it was last month. I think I got to like not even that far into it. Like I think it might have been like the second or third episode.
Ooh, man. Dude, like third, fourth.
Is it good?
Oh, it's really good, yeah. Like third, fourth, fifth episode is when like shit starts hitting the fan and like crazy stuff starts happening. It's really good. I mean, obviously, there are going to be the detractors saying like, oh, it's slow, it's preachy, but like that's kind of the whole point of the series. And I think it's really smartly written. I really had no idea what it was about, just that it was about some kind of like religious thing going on an island. But it really surprised me, dude. I think it's one of the standout like horror series of the year for sure. And so I really am excited for anything Mike Flanagan does. And this one is supposed to be based on multiple works from Edgar Allan Poe. And there really isn't a whole lot of other information, unfortunately, but it will have 8 episodes, and then Mike Flanagan and Michael Fimognari will each direct 4 episodes. So that's all we have to go on for now, but I think most of us are somewhat familiar with Edgar Allan Poe's work. It's usually pretty creepy, pretty disturbing, very gothic, and I think that Mike Flanagan's like the perfect person to hit on like those particular aspects and create like a really good series. All right. And then our last bit of news before we jump into the trailers. This one I wanted to talk about just because Finn Wolfhard is going to be in the new Ghostbusters film. So I just thought it was kind of intriguing. He is going to be creating his own horror comedy slasher film, which I know is like one of your favorite subgenres, Sam.
Yeah, and I heard it's gonna be like at a campground, which is even better. We get like a Final Girls typey movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it seems like. So I'm guessing he's gonna be drawing some inspiration from, Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, etc. And yeah, it's a horror comedy slasher movie that takes place at a camp, and that it is a feature film. So that's really all we know about it so far. He has also directed and written a short film titled Night Shifts that was released on YouTube earlier this year. I didn't watch the whole thing. I did, kind of glance through it, and it looks pretty solid. So obviously he has experience with Stranger Things. He's in Ghostbusters. So he was in The Turning, I believe, right?
Yep.
So whether you like it or not, I mean, the kid is ingrained in horror culture, and I'm sure he's probably watched a ton of horror. He's got the resources. So I don't know. It sounds like a fun movie.
I would say just let the boy do his thing. I mean, he's still a kid. Imagine, like, if he, like, sticks to his guns, he starts maturing, he starts, like, analyzing these movies from a, like, a film student type of view, and, like, and from a place of passion, too, on top of it, and from a place of experience, since he's been in these movies, so he knows what makes them work. He knows what kind of actors makes them work, what kind of script, what kind of subject matter. So let the boy do his thing.
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to kind of rag on him for being so young, trying to make a movie and everything. But it's like, dude, like 99% of casual like moviegoers and horror fans have absolutely no idea what goes into actually like making a movie or like writing a good movie. You know what I mean? And like this guy has been like all around the entertainment industry for how many years now? Like, and he's got the resources, he's got the connections. So I don't know about his writing ability or his directing ability per se, especially for like a feature film. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to just see like what he can bring. Maybe, make something new for the genre. It doesn't sound like he's going to be, rehashing something necessarily, which is always nice. So,
I mean, he's got money. He's got money. He can be a producer
yeah.
and have like a say in what goes on, even though if he doesn't have the directing or like the writing experience, he can come up with the idea, and someone else writes it, tries to make his vision come true, even if he's not a great writer. I mean, so the producer's for. He's like, hey, I got all this money. I want a movie about campground slashers, and I want it to have like XYZ. And then someone will be like, okay, let me write something. And then he could be like, I like this, but omit this part, and we can have this. Like, then he can make it, his own. Like, I mean, he can't do it 100% by himself. It's not going to be a completely original vision if he's, solely the producer. But if he's like the writer and stuff like that, I mean, how great can he write? What does he know about writing? We don't know that. We don't know if he knows anything. We don't know if he doesn't know anything. So I mean, we'll see. That's all we can do is wait and see. That's the whole thing about all this horror news. Like, everyone's so quick to jump the gun and be like, well, this is gonna chill, bro. Just fucking wait. Like, wait for it to happen, and then we'll see if it sucked, and then we can be like, wow, you were right. Here's a fucking gold star.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't really judge a book by its cover, and we've learned that about stuff even this year. People thought certain things were going to be really good. They weren't. People thought things were going to suck, and they didn't. But hey, everybody's got an opinion, and they're all assholes. So
people thought Halloween Kills was going to be great, and
well, yeah, we're going to get more into that. It's not going to be like a review full out, but we're going to talk about it because it is important to our topic of discussion. But that's going to be in a little bit, guys. We have 3 trailers to talk about, and then we're going to get into the main event. So the first one, this is coming out November 24th in theaters. So actually, by the time you're listening to this episode, it may already be out, depending on when I'm able to get this done and like put up and out there. But it's possible that you'll already be like going to watch this, or maybe it'll be the next day. I don't know. But Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is coming out very, very soon. Next week for us right now. And this is the first new Resident Evil like live action film project in quite a while, actually.
It looked bonkers. It looked scary. It looked lively. It looked like it was going to have comedic relief. The acting looked great. Leon looked weird. That did not look like Leon. I don't have that much of a problem with it. But it looked like it's going to be a very long movie because there was so much in that trailer to like unpack. And like, I couldn't even tell you what was going on besides like, we need to stop Umbrella. And that's the whole basis of this. There's some like conspiracy thingy. No one believes someone. And then shit hits the fucking fan. It looks scary. It looks fun. I mean, that's all you really want in a Resident Evil movie. I'm not looking to have some fucking narrative about, socio-political stuff. Yeah. I just want to be fucking entertained, and that's what it looks like is in this trailer. classic Resident Evil stuff that a lot of fans are going to be able to point at the screen and be like, oh, there's that. Like, so that's all I want. I'm going to go see it for sure.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I appreciate the like, I don't want to call them original films, but obviously the Mila Jovovich films. I think we all kind of they have. I know they have a special place in. Okay, not all of them. Like the first one.
Two.
Yeah, the first one or two have a special place in my heart because they are genuinely like pretty like exciting films. I was gonna say good. I don't think they're really good per se, but yeah, but they're fun. You know, they're enjoyable, kind of like guilty pleasure movies. But the thing that they mainly do is they incorporate some elements of like the Resident Evil mythology, but really kind of do its own thing anyway. This movie is actually supposed to be based on the video games. And this movie in particular is mainly going to be influenced and based on the first game, which you can clearly see in the trailer. Like they're in the mansion, all the appropriate characters are there. You've got Chris, Wesker and everybody. So, and Jill, I think, right? Jill?
I think it was Claire, wasn't it?
Or Claire, is it? I don't know. Listen, guys, I'm not like the premier Resident Evil expert. I literally just started playing the games like recently, but yeah, they're all in it, and it's got all the classic kind of Resident Evil stuff from the first game. Hopefully they'll have all the puzzles and crap because those things pissed me off. I couldn't even finish the first game. Dude, there were so many fucking puzzles.
Then you feel like a piece of shit when you're trying to look up game guides. You're like, dude, I can't do this. It's just blow to my ego that I'm not as smart as I think I am.
I know people are gonna like judge me, but literally, like, because I beat 2 and 3, the remastered ones, right? I bought the first game because I was like, oh, okay, I'll go back and like I'll play the first game because it's iconic.
So goofy because the camera's always in like the corner and you gotta like point your stick in a weird direction to move. And I gave up. I just started playing the 2 remake, the 3 remake. I played Resident Evil 4 is so good. 5 is so good. 6 is so good. 7, 8, so good. So good.
Dude, like, I don't know, man. I was playing 1 for like 4 hours or something, right? Just going around and like by myself. Like I was just trying to figure it out, by myself. And I thought like I made a lot of progress. Dude, I looked at a guide because I was getting pissed off at like one puzzle. I was in like maybe the first 5th or 6th of the game. And I had so much left to do. I was just like, man, fuck this. I can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, I did quit that game, guys. Don't judge me. But anyway, the movie looks pretty cool. I do agree about Leon. Not really a fan of his look, but again, we'll see how it plays out in the actual film. But I think it's going to be a fun time. Like the CGI is meh, but it could be pretty solid overall. And yeah, it'll be out very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Next up, this one's kind of out of left field. I just randomly kind of came across it on Bloody Disgusting, and not a very well-known film, but I saw that it was a creature feature and that it was foreign. So I was like, okay, maybe, we'll give this one a shot. Check it out. And it was kind of described as like a mixture between, I think, the Babadook and something else.
I saw it was some sort of like, watch the trailer. It's some sort of boogeyman lore in whatever country that comes from. Yeah,
exactly. It's called, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Achura or Ahura or something like that. It's I think the actual, hold on. Let me try and find this out here.
And the monster's name was like Bugatati or something.
Yeah. So it's apparently based on a Moroccan legend, which is interesting. It's about 4 childhood friends who are reunited when one of them surfaces after 20 years, forcing them to confront a creature straight out of a spine-chilling Moroccan legend. So the trailer actually looks like pretty solid. The creature itself, I think, looks quite interesting and kind of terrifying. I can sort of see why it was likened to the Babadook. I have no idea what the kind of vibe of the actual like narrative and the atmosphere and everything is going to be, but from what I saw visually, I was actually pretty like into it. So
yeah, it looked great. It looked like a dark movie, one of those atmospheric, really, I don't want to say avant-garde because you can't kind of tell from it, but it's a very dark and atmospheric and brooding, foreboding movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's got that sort of gothic kind of like look to it, almost like Mama in some ways, like if Mama was mixed with the Babadook or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it looks pretty interesting. And finally, Fiends, our last trailer is one that has been discussed, I'm sure by now, a lot. And this one's coming out January 14th, 2022 in theaters. And it is one that we've mentioned already, Scream.
People are already making fucking videos about this trailer, over analyzing it, slowing it down to see like possible death scenes.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's passing the torch to a new cast for a new generation, while having legacy characters come back and help solve another murder that is starting in Woodsboro that is eerily similar to the previous original murder. And now apparently the new killer is targeting the relatives of the original killers.
Yeah. So this one I think definitely fits more into our theme for this episode because, like you said, you've got the original characters coming in, but they're almost taking a back seat to these new characters. Obviously, that kind of remains to be seen. You know, Sydney, Gale, Dewey, all those guys are almost certainly still going to be kind of at the forefront, but we don't know what's going to happen. You know, I think there's a very real chance that one or multiple of them could die in this movie. And then we'll see, you know, some of these new characters kind of taking the reins. And that's precisely kind of what we wanted to talk about today. I'm not going to like go into an extended version right now because we'll talk more kind of about Scream. But, you know, this movie has been kind of a long time coming. It's been, God, how many years since Scream 4?
10 years.
Dude, yeah. So 10 years. Obviously, we had Wes Craven at the helm. This one has Matt Bettolini-Olpin and Tyler Gillette with a slew of new writers. You've still got the same trio of stars, but like in general, this is a Scream for a new generation, and the fact that it is called Scream, I think says a lot. Very similar to Halloween from 2018, right? That movie said, you know what? No, this is Halloween now. We're retconning all these older flicks except for the first one. We're introducing a new timeline, new characters. We're going to get people excited about Halloween again with, still Michael Myers, still Loomis, still Laurie and everything. But we're going to introduce so much new stuff that this is going to extend past the stuff that you already know about.
Which it has to. It has to. There's only so many times these sequels can use the same formula but with a little twist and follow the same lazy story of the whole sister stuff, and Scream following someone's out to get Sydney. Everyone's always obsessed with Sydney, and it's like, I don't know. We need something fresh. We need something new. A return of the legacy characters, sure, cool, that's great. And then having a new cast is great too, because as you saw with the Scream TV series, it worked out. Like Emma was like the main character in the Scream TV series, and I enjoyed her. I enjoyed her friends. I enjoyed Noah and Audrey and all of them. So hopefully we can get like the same attachment to these new generation Gen Z Scream kids as we did to Sydney and Gale and Dewey and everyone else.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree, dude. I mean, there are some impressive stars in here so far. Jenna Ortega, I've really been liking a lot. She's definitely like a future Scream queen, I think. Jack Quaid, who plays in The Boys on Amazon Prime, he's great. He's going to be in this. Dylan Minnette, I've seen him in a few things.
I love
he's
Dylan
good.
Minnette.
Yeah, dude.
He's from where I live right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea. Huh. That's pretty awesome, actually. Dude, yeah, he's a solid actor. Kyle Gallner as well. I've seen him in a number of things. He's actually like a kind of a vet now. Wasn't he the main guy in Friday the 13th, the remake? Or maybe I'm No, A Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what I'm thinking of. He played the main guy in that one. So he's been around for a while. But some of these other actors and actresses, they haven't been on the scene like too long or are relatively unknown. And the fact that they're being brought into like a Scream film is huge for them. So I think this one has a lot of potential to do a lot of cool things. I do wonder, how exactly they're going to address this kind of, Scream and Halloween, like this is the new Scream, right? Because this movie isn't exactly retconning anything like Halloween did, at least not as far as we know. But, they are bringing back this killer who is going after, the relatives of the old characters. Like, it's just going to be very interesting. A lot of people have been talking about Stu coming back and being the killer.
I doubt that.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it out there right now. I don't think that that's what's going on, but anyway, I think the premise of this one is actually quite interesting. So I think it has a lot of potential.
I hope it lives up to it because I mean look at the original Scream. I mean 4 movies and people are like we need to have a new generation. So what's going to happen with this series is the same thing, 4 movies and then people get tired of it. So
yeah. I mean, it really makes sense because, that's what Scream is. And for some reason, a lot of people don't seem to understand that. Like, you don't have to like Scream, but I think it's important to understand what Scream itself, like, as a film and as a franchise is, right? It's a commentary on horror movies.
Exactly.
It's born out of, like, what's happening in the genre, right? Tropes and cliches and how horror actually functions, like, in our society. How horror films are crafted in order to send certain messages and, and take advantage of people's expectations and reactions and everything. So, I mean, I think this one's coming out at a very timely moment and calling itself Scream and doing this with the new generation and everything. I think it makes complete sense. And if Wes Craven was alive, maybe I'm in the wrong here, but I think if he made Scream 5, he'd probably make it very similar to this.
Yeah, and good thing it's just Scream and not 5 Cream.
Yeah.
Because in Scream 4 they made the AF4 and this one that would have been a 5.
Oh, man,
I would not have been excited for 5 Cream, I'll tell you what.
That sounds like a bukkake waiting to happen.
Stop it. Oh,
I'm terrible. All right. All right, so that's all the trailers, guys. We're gonna touch on Scream. We're gonna touch on Scream a little bit more here in our main discussion. Take a very quick break. Go, stretch, get some water or something. We'll be back in just a few seconds with our main segment. All right, Gravers, we are back and we are ready for the main segment here. So as we've alluded to, we're going to be discussing kind of a number of things, but, we've been noticing this kind of trend recently of lots of projects essentially kind of piggybacking off of, these long-standing established franchises, but trying to add something a little bit different, So this isn't necessarily remakes and reboots. We're not going to be talking about Child's Play or Friday the 13th from 2009 or those kind of movies, right? This is stuff that acknowledges, characters and timelines and events of all these previous movies from the 80s, 70s, 90s, etc. But they're adding something new, right? These are movies that are meant for a new generation, but are still kind of also for the older generation. So I think it's an interesting discussion because I think maybe people still kind of, like snap at these movies as if they were reboots and remakes and be like, oh, why can't you create something new? Technically, I think some of these movies are creating something new, but just before we dive into any specific examples, like, do you think that these movies kind of deserve their place, like more or less or equal to, remakes and reboots, like, should they be made, or do you just prefer to just leave all that stuff in the dust?
I think continuing the franchises that we held so dear is a great idea, while having at least some original ideas for a sequel, I think is a positive thing and keeping it alive. But
Mhm.
who wants to keep it alive? That's the thing. Is it the producers? Is it a money grab? In that case, leave it alone. But
Mhm.
if you're doing it for the fans because everybody wants it, they keep asking when's a new one coming out? When's a new one coming out? I think that's great. It would be kind of weird if like out of nowhere, like a studio was just like, yeah, we're continuing fucking I don't know, we're continuing it again out of nowhere and nobody asked for it because
Right.
it's going to be a money grab. And I think sequels shouldn't be like shit on because I mean, dude, look at the fucking 1980s, sequel after sequel after sequel after sequel after sequel, continuing on into the 90s and early 2000s of every major franchise, Chucky, Nightmare on Elm Street, all of these had sequels, and they rarely did anything different from the previous movies, and they get all this praise. So now all of a sudden, when people are like, "Yeah, we want to bring back this franchise, continue it, but tweak some things," people are like, "Ah, you shouldn't change it." It's like, why? Do you want a repeat of the 1980s when the
Mhm.
slasher film died?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that because there's somewhat of a difference between something like, okay, let's say, I don't know if you heard about this, but there was news recently about there being a Pumpkinhead remake.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it
Yeah.
on Bloody Disgusting, I think, and I don't know how I feel. I mean, because Pumpkinhead 1 was great. Pumpkinhead 2 was okay, but then there was Blood
Hmm.
Feud and then Ashes to Ashes, and it's like, and those were
Yeah.
kind of iffy. So I mean, I think Sci-Fi Channel kind of ruined it with their straight-to-TV
Hmm.
Pumpkinhead movies, and then everyone's like, "Well, last time we tried a sequel, it was shit, so let's just reboot it." And it's like, but who asked for that? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Did
Yeah.
any hardcore Pumpkinhead fans, if there are any, asked for it? Who asked for it? Or are they just capitalizing on the success of these? I guess now they're classics.
Hmm.
Classics would really be like 1930s and 40s, but now the 80s are considered like classics. So like,
Hmm.
and they're trying to capitalize off all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. Um, I don't know how to feel about it because I'm cool with sequels, but like the reboots and the remakes, it's just like who asked for it, Like
Right.
did we who said we wanted this?
Yeah, and that's precisely why I brought it up, because I think there is definitely a significant difference, between the two types of projects, right? Pumpkinhead, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see a remake, but is it necessary? No, not really, because you can do something else with that franchise and still potentially make it, kind of cool and interesting. I guess that also there's so much to kind of like ponder about it, because here's the thing too, right? To play devil's advocate on that, is Pumpkinhead really like that iconic or like well known outside of the horror franchise? No, not really.
Nope.
Right. So in that sense, I can kind of see why a remake makes sense, because it is an established franchise. People have probably vaguely heard about Pumpkinhead maybe in the past, like even if they're not horror fans, maybe, they passed by it in the video store when they were like 12 or something, right? And they
Or
were too scared, and like maybe they know about it.
yeah, or during Halloween it plays on TV
Mhm.
and like they fucking like they like flicked past the channel while it was
Yeah.
like in the middle of it during these horror movie marathons or whatever.
Yeah. But like, could you get away with doing something like David Gordon Green did with Halloween with Pumpkinhead, and people are going to like flock to go see it and like be super excited about the continuation of like Pumpkinhead's story and like like something like that? Probably not really.
It needs to appeal to a modern audience who's never heard of it.
Mm,
So it needs to actually be scary, not campy. It needs to be horrifying.
right.
They need to make Pumpkinhead be in the shadows more. He needs to like it needs some like relevance, like in
Mm,
terms of like what's being put out today. And like I don't know, like a creature feature, like nowadays, like that's not what people are scared of. Now the things that's popular in horror in 2021 is like people and
Yeah.
technology and everything like that. That's the main focus now. These like these dogmatic things like religion and creatures and like demons and stuff. Like sure, The Conjuring is getting big bucks because it's The Conjuring, you know? Like it's a staple at this point, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I guess people will consider it like classic, even though it hasn't been out for like 10 fucking years. But you
Yeah.
know, people will flock to see it because you know some people like it's just the popular thing. It was the
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood thing, but like I don't know, like with like stuff like that, like demons and fucking creatures from hell and stuff like that. It's like no one cares about that anymore. It's not scary. We know it's make believe, and
Mm-hmm.
no one's like this can happen because like nowadays what's scary is the this can actually happen thing. Like even the new Scream and like fucking unfriended dark web and shit like that. Like all these things where people can infiltrate you with your technology and find out your schedule, find out what you do, hurt
Mm-hmm.
you, hurt the people you love, stuff like that. That's what everyone's scared of now.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'd be excited to see kind of how our thinking about that changes in the next year or two, because while I agree that those are still the more prominent movies, we have been kind of seeing some more of those like creature features and other such films kind of, gaining some more popularity, because, we just had Antlers come out, which I thought was like pretty good. Honestly, that was a creature feature. We had Blood Red Sky, that Netflix foreign vampire film, which I honestly really enjoyed as well and was very popular on Netflix. So I think there is potential for a creature feature to take off. I guess if you're going to remake any of them, like Pumpkinhead would be a good one. But I guess in terms of like, does it need to happen? No. And would it be more interesting if there was something connected to the original franchise? I think in terms of that, yes, I think a sequel or a prequel or a spin-off or something like that would probably be more interesting. But I guess like financially and marketing wise, it does make more sense to do a remake. So I think it's very complicated. But like the movies that I have listed out here, these all make complete sense because these are like name brands, right? These are like franchises and characters and things that even people outside of like the hardcore horror genre, like they'll know about it. And I don't know if we're gonna have time to really get into like all of these, but I have David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy up there. That's for sure extremely popular franchise, horror lover or not. I have Ghostbusters Afterlife on here. I mean, Ghostbusters itself, I'm sure some people will argue, is not really horror. I guess there's some merit to that, but it belongs in the discussion about the horror genre. Extremely popular franchise. Now there's a new movie coming out, which actually looks quite solid in my opinion. This one, I'm not sure if you heard about, but Prey, which is the Predator prequel.
They actually, I don't know if you knew this, but they stole that idea of an ancient tribal woman, from my friend Blinky 500 from YouTube. He's a big YouTuber. He's made a lot of Michael Myers fan films, and like
Mm-hmm.
they even stole like the shot of her in like the woods, and like he emailed them about it, and they're like, "Oh, we promise that this will not infringe on your rights," but it's literally like the premise is literally the exact same as his movie.
Oh, like what did he make, like a short film or something?
Yeah, you
Oh
can look it
wow.
up, A Prey by Blinky 500, and
Huh.
Hollywood like
Interesting.
Hollywood loves going to YouTube and stealing ideas from fan films. Like
Huh. Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. I had no idea about that, but hey, check out Blinky 500 and make sure to really like and spam all his shit.
he's great, dude.
I had no idea about that.
You should check it out. He made I don't know, you know the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. He
Mm-hmm.
made his name is Chris Notarile, I think that's how it's pronounced. He made the Cabinet of Chris R. Notarile. He made Freddy versus Jason
Nice.
versus Michael versus Pinhead versus it's basically all of them gaining up on Freddy, and at the end Pinhead and everyone else rips Freddy apart. He made
Nice.
Jason versus Michael. He made a lot of original Nightmare on Elm Street prequels, short
Oh,
series to Freddy. He made a lot of like Halloween ones, short films. He did The Death of Michael Myers. He made a lot, and he also made his own feature-length movie called Methodic. So
okay. Nice. All right. Well, yeah, go check him out, guys. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you can do so much with all this existing content without the need to remake it. And okay, I guess even if Hollywood did steal Prey, like it's still a movie that's going to be coming out. It's a Predator prequel with an indigenous Native American woman fighting against the Predator. Not sure if it's supposed to be the same one from the first film. I don't think so, but I don't know. 300 years ago, Native American woman fighting against the Predator. Supposedly, it's going to kind of have this similar vibe as the first film. Obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger is not a Native American woman, but
yeah, the furthest thing from it, literally.
I know. But I guess if they say the vibe is going to be the same, then cool. So the interesting thing about this is like how they're actually going to connect the two films, and that's why I think that movies like this do definitely have a place in the horror genre, because it's cool talking about like, hey, this new movie's coming out. How exactly does it tie into these movies that we've like grown up loving and appreciating? So I mean, I can, even though there are some remakes I like, and even though I think that some remakes deserve to exist, and like remakes in general kind of have their own little place in the genre, I think movies like this ultimately just matter more because you're adding more to the timelines, you're adding more to the lore. And sure, there are always going to be people bitching about whether X deserves to be part of the lore of whatever, Scream or Candyman or Saw or whatnot. But the fact of the matter is that the more stuff that's out there, the more like potential there is to create even more new stuff that's connected to all of that, and just continue that on, and really reward you for like keeping up with it.
And I think the bitching about it is always going to be the case. There's always going to be someone like, well, should this be canon? Should this be XYZ? Should this be? Because I think that's what the producers of those movies want. Once we get people talking about it, it gets more eyes on it, gets more people arguing about it, and then the arguments make more people hear about it, and then more eyeballs come on it. And I think that's the main point of it. They want to have this discussion, and I think that's what these movies are for. They're meant to entertain. They're meant to add to the lore, and they're meant to bring more discussions to the table and more eyes to the series, so that when they decide to push out even more content, that even more people than the first time around clamor around the silver screen to watch it.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And we were speaking about Blinky's movies before, and I actually completely forgot about these, but even though they're not technically like official, the Friday the 13th like fan films by Wompstomp Films, those are like, I think, perfect examples, because they put an established character in Jason Voorhees in a situation where it's still technically like part of the canon. I mean, not that, the original creators are going to consider it part of the canon, but like they're doing their own thing and putting it as part of the canon. And us as the fans, we can kind of consider that its own little universe. And, you've got Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis in there, continuing the fight against Jason Voorhees, which we haven't been able to see for so long because of all the legal troubles. That stuff...
It's over now, though.
I know, it is over now, which is good. But, they at least were able to put out stuff that like kept us entertained. And that really is for the longtime fans, because like you and I even, right, we have religiously like watched all those movies in the franchise like so many times. We're so invested in it. You do actually want to end up seeing more of that content instead of just like remakes and reboots, right? Because you want to know what Tommy Jarvis is going to do to Jason Voorhees.
Exactly, because I mean, Tommy just disappeared after 6, and he just never came back. And then there's Friday the 13th Vengeance, which is another fan film. It's in 4K on YouTube, Tommy Jarvis's like daughter ends up in the mix and his daughters, and then we don't see him because I guess they couldn't get Tom Matthews because he was already with the Womp Stomp films and stuff. But I think bringing back these legacy characters helps fans feel more comfortable with adding these movies to the canon when it's just new characters and then remakes, new characters from these remakes and reboots. It's kind of harder to get into it because our expectations are so high because these are our beloved franchises. So we got these new characters, and then the reboots and the remakes don't pan out like the originals, and then the pacing is different. What happens is different. What we didn't expect is different. So we end up going, "Oh, that was ass," instead of just being like, "Oh yeah, that was its own thing." It's not supposed to be exactly like the old one because then what's the point to a remake? But then again, like some movies stay too true to the original, and then the remakes end up fucking sucking completely because it's like there was nothing fresh about it. There was nothing new about it.
Exactly. Conversely, though, I mean, I did want to ask what you think about, I guess, the new content being added and it potentially, like souring the stuff that already exists. Because while we've been talking about, it adding all this like fresh new content, new faces, right, a new generation, and having the potential to like carry on the stories and characters that we love, all that stuff is like well and good. But, are there situations where you get stuff like that and it kind of makes you like look back on those other films and realize that, yeah, it's all like part of the same canon and the same universe, and it's just like not that good, and it kind of ruins the franchise for you?
Oh, of course, like the Thorn Cult with the Michael Myers movies.
Yeah.
I think that's one example where everything was like just fucking, it went to shit because of like too much explaining, less mysteriousness. And it's not even that always ruins a fucking franchise. It's like, I don't know, like a legacy character dies, or like too much is explained through the backstory, too little's explained. Another movie with literally zero exposition and just more body count and bloodbath. Like, there's so many things that can fucking ruin a movie. Honestly, even just bad pacing can ruin a movie, even if like the script is strong. Just like the fucking, I don't know. Let's talk about Halloween Kills.
Okay, yeah.
That I didn't like it. It was all over the place. We're introducing these characters that are just meant to be in the body count. Laurie's in the hospital. We get all this exposition about evil. Everyone's saying the same stuff about Michael that Loomis was saying about him. So now we took Loomis's dialogue and gave everybody that. And this whole evil must die, and then the angry mob, and then now we're the monsters. Like, come on, dude. And I don't know, that movie was all over the place. I know it was supposed to be like for the fans, have Michael kill and stuff, but like a lot of the stuff was stupid. Like, I don't know, bringing back legacy characters to kill all of them besides Lindsay, spoiler alert. And just having people like having like the fucking like having the movie jump from like hospital, Myers house, other street, Michael's killing someone here now. Now we're here with Alice, and now we're here with Lonnie. Now there's this crazy guy in the hospital. I felt like the script was horrible in that movie. The script was horrid. Literally, none of these people talked like actual people. The stuff that people said in this movie is not stuff that real human beings say in real life to each other.
Yeah, 20 separate people do not go around saying evil must die tonight or whatever the fuck they were saying.
Yeah.
That's just not like a thing that happened. So, look, I agree. I didn't particularly like the movie. And this one, I think, actually kind of sets off a worrying trend, because a lot of the other movies that we've discussed so far, and like that I'd still want to highlight, like I have on here, Candyman and like Spiral and Prometheus, Blair Witch and stuff like that. A lot of these are like sequels, prequels, or like spiritual sequels in the sense of like Candyman and some other ones. But we don't really have too many contemporary movies like Halloween, which are straight up just like, we're going to follow the first film that came out and forget about every other film, and we're going to establish our own new timeline. Movies did do this here and there, like back in the 80s and whatnot. But, we're really just talking about modern movies. That really kind of stopped happening until Halloween, I think, like in 2018 was the most significant, unless I'm misremembering like a particular movie, but
I think you're right, because every other thing was either a sequel or a remake.
yeah.
There was no like ignoring this and then this happened. Last time that happened actually was in the 90s when Halloween H2O came out, and they're
Right.
like, okay, ignore 4, 5, and 6, ignore the cult. This is a
Mhm.
direct sequel to Halloween 2.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and that movie is like generally kind of well regarded, but then like even the sequels to that, not that well regarded. So yeah. So I don't know, man. Like I think that 2018's Halloween is the most significant in the retconning regard, but it also did help kind of jumpstart all these other like, you know, like similar projects. But I just really don't want movies to go down this road and have another thing like, oh, we're going to do a Nightmare on Elm Street where it's a direct continuation of the first movie and we're going to disregard every other movie. And then it's going to try to establish its own thing. I mean, it could be good, sure. But I mean, just look at Halloween Kills, you know? Like even Halloween 2018 had its problems, but Kills just tried to ratchet it up too much. And that's an example of a movie that
It felt so rushed. It felt so rushed. And it's crazy because it was supposed to come out last year. Imagine if they released it last year. They had a year since last year to get all the kinks out of it, and it still came out like this.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just trying to do too much, you know, and that's one where I think they tried their best to follow up, you know, the first film from 2018, and then they were just like, okay, we know that we're doing Halloween, and even though we've set up our own narrative, we want all this fan service in here, and we want this story, and we want X, Y, and Z. And it was just too much all in one thing.
Yeah, exactly. I just crammed all that shit in there, and it wasn't coherent or cohesive.
Mhm.
Like there was nothing redeemable about that movie other than Michael.
Yeah.
Just Michael.
Like the gore and stuff was cool.
The dialogue took me out of it, man. Like so many times I was just like, I rolled my eyes like 100 times.
Yeah, just the dialogue, the pacing. Like you said, the script. I mean, there's just like so much going on.
And I'm saying this after seeing every Halloween movie. This was the third weakest script. Number 1 was Halloween Resurrection. Number 2 was the Halloween 2 Rob Zombie, and this is the third weakest.
Mm-hmm.
People can say all they want. Like I see all these horror Instagrams being like, "Wow, the movie was great. The movie was this. The movie was that." And these are all like, I'm sorry, but you have to be a dick rider, or you have to like be a cheesy person yourself. You got to be a fucking JV beta cornball to enjoy this shit, because like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I was disappointed, and literally as I'm watching this, I go, Barnabas is gonna be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
My boy Austin's gonna be disappointed. This movie doesn't even appeal to young kids. Even young kids would think this dialogue is very non-realistic. It's not shit people say, and it's very cringy. Like there was like, I'll give you the one good thing about this movie though, Little John and Big John, because I love Michael McDonald. I've been a fan since Mad TV, and Michael McDonald in my eyes can do no wrong. I don't care what anyone says.
Don't
stop it! No,
stay away from my danger.
See, and what I'm worried about is other franchises following suit, like you said, with this trend of like ignoring previous sequels and starting a new timeline, because they're like, well, we need something original. Yes, but you following in the steps of David Gordon Green is not original. Ignoring all of these movies and starting your own timeline is not original, because it wasn't your idea first. Like, and what makes me mad is like John Carpenter approved of 2018. He's like, yes, I'm a bit involved on this, and I think this is good. I was disappointed by 2018. It grew on me after. I watched it a few times after, and I was like, okay, I enjoy this movie. But then Halloween Kills, I watched it twice. The second time, it was just as bad.
Yeah. I think there's just a point where things just get too confusing for people. And, I mean, it's not even that you can't just, like, really look at it and understand what's going on. But I mean, Halloween has like 3 or 4 separate timelines. That's the worst of the franchises for sure, because most of them are not nearly as bad. So Halloween is definitely the worst. But I mean, yeah, I just think it doesn't set a great precedent, because it almost gives people the idea that they can kind of just end up doing whatever they want. But, you know, what I think end up being the most successful projects are the ones like Ghostbusters Afterlife, Scream, you know, etc. Even like, dude, Blair Witch was a huge success to me, because I had no idea going into it that it was supposed to be like a sequel to the first film. That one actually, I think, did it right.
Unlike Book of Shadows.
Right.
Have you ever seen Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2?
Yeah, like a long ass time ago, and
yeah, it's turns out one of the teenagers was like the Blair Witch or something. Like,
yeah, it's, I don't know, man, it's stupid. It's like, but you know, all those projects, I think, have the potential to be a little bit more successful, because they're not completely disregarding everything. Like, yes, there's obviously going to be some fan service. Yes, they're still relying on, you know, having certain characters, Easter eggs, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that they don't have to cram in so much, because they're just kind of building off of like a bunch of films or like works that are already out there, you know, I think gives them a little bit more confidence, right? David Gordon Green has to create 3 new movies with a completely new narrative, while trying to fit like all these old characters, Easter eggs, etc. in there. And it may have worked for the first film somewhat, but we see as this is going on, you know, he just wants this to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why I think it just kind of falls flat. If they kept it to the same type of like scale as maybe the like Carpenter's original, and to an extent the 2018 film, I think maybe there was more, you know, opportunity there to really craft something like significant. But yeah, I think it's just they're trying to do too much with it now.
and like you said, all the Easter eggs and stuff they're trying to cram in there, the legacy characters, the fucking kills, the exposition is what killed me. Oh,
Yeah.
he was staring out the window of his bedroom, or was he looking outside, or was he just looking at his reflection? Was he looking inward? Was he looking? Dude, now it's all about we're like, what does Michael want? He just wants to stand in his upstairs bedroom and stare out the fucking window. That's all he wants?
Yeah.
No, that's not what he wanted. He wanted to kill. And once he killed his sister in 1960, whatever the fuck he killed her in, 1963, he wanted to relive that kill. So he followed babysitters who mostly resembled her, and he stalked them. He would play with his food. He would drop the flower pot and scare Annie. He would lock her in the thing. And then all those things are there to give... The kill is there just to give the scares justification, because potential threats without actual follow-through is just, a bunch of random stuff just happened to me and I was scared. What he did like doing, scaring his fucking victims, and then finally coming in for the kill. In these movies, and David Gordon Green got it wrong, he was just going house to house, just killing people, murdering people for like absolutely no reason. And that's not what the original was about. The original was about playing with his food. He had that little kid mentality, pulling pranks on people, scaring them before finally killing them. It wasn't just going door to door and slaughtering people. That's not what it was about.
Yeah. Honestly, you bring a good point, because I think doing all that stuff in Halloween Kills specifically is almost kind of like insulting to the people who are watching it, because I think, you know, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. Like, the remakes are kind of like, yes, for people who kind of know about that IP. Like, obviously people who know about Pumpkinhead are probably going to go see Pumpkinhead, but remakes are also decidedly like for people who are maybe not familiar with the franchise at all, or those characters. These kind of films, even David Gordon Green's, because it's so heavily reliant on Carpenter's first film, I think you have to make an assumption that there's going to be like a not an even split, but you're going to have people who are familiar with the franchise in some way, like maybe not super intimately. Like obviously there are going to be a lot of maybe casual moviegoers going to see this movie, but you don't need all that stuff in there just kind of like insulting our intelligence as if we don't know about it, or like you're going to like change our minds about Michael Myers or something. Because honestly, in this movie, he kind of like didn't feel like Michael Myers, like you were alluding to. Not completely.
He felt like Jason with more human qualities. Like he felt like pre part 6 Jason, somewhat without the running. It's just like all this exposition about evil this and evil that. You guys even said this movie's a fan service movie. Why are you telling us, the people that this movie is for, how evil he is? We know. Yeah. We don't need all the exposition. It ruins it, and it's bordering on the whole Halloween 6 thingy. All this exposition is ruining the mystique. There was a mystique to this character, and now that you're like, he just wants to stay at home and stare out his bedroom window, you ruined it again. You killed the franchise again.
Yeah. And I mean, I might eat my words, but the thing that I'm kind of looking forward to in Ghostbusters Afterlife, for example, is like in the trailer, a lot of people were kind of against it because at first, like the first trailer, they're almost like, oh, this doesn't really feel like Ghostbusters or anything. Like, yeah, the car's in there and they're fighting ghosts or whatever, but it doesn't really feel like Ghostbusters. But, as more trailers were released, it's like, okay, obviously the older Ghostbusters who are still alive are going to be in there, but that kind of stuff is a little bit more subtle, right? Like, yes, you obviously can understand that these are supposed to be the descendants of the original Ghostbusters, but it's not nearly the same kind of like pandering and like, oh, here's everything you need to know about the franchise and these characters on a silver spoon, like in Halloween Kills.
Yes.
Because the people who are going to be watching Ghostbusters Afterlife probably know about the Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
So hopefully people don't continue on with the Halloween trend. I would definitely like to see more projects coming out that are more similar to all these other films and just kind of like adding on intelligently fresh new content and new faces to these established franchises, and they can continue making like enjoyable stuff. But yeah, I just don't really want to see some more stuff like Kills. I mean, Halloween Ends might put a nice bow on it, but after this one, I don't know.
Did you read what David Gordon Green wants?
No.
He said it will take place in modern day, years after the events of Halloween Kills, and will deal with the pandemic and peculiar politics.
Yeah, I don't know about that. What does that have anything?
Can we just have a Michael Myers movie?
Right. Yeah, how is that supposed to be like a follow-up to Halloween Kills, even?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. And that doesn't even feel like Halloween to me exactly. So
it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're seeing a trend. We're seeing a trend with these Halloween movies. After Halloween 3 failed back in the 80s, they dropped Halloween 4, and it was a hit. And it was a good movie, and other than the original, I don't care what anyone says, Halloween 4 is the second best movie in the entire franchise. But then a year later, because of that success, they rushed Halloween 5, and a year later it came out, and everyone hated that shit. And that's exactly what happened. Halloween 2018 was a success, and Halloween Kills, it might have been a blockbuster success, but with people with a brain, people that don't decide, I'm going to like this franchise no matter what because I'm a fan. You might think that makes you a fan. No, the fans are disappointed by this because the fans expected more. The fans didn't want all this exposition. The fans just wanted a cohesive and coherent movie and a story. We did not want something crammed to shit into one film with all these Easter eggs and all of this nonsense that was just filler and all of these easily forgettable characters, and then bringing back legacy characters just to have them killed. This is not what we wanted. We wanted a real sequel. We wanted to see Michael in his element, stalking people, doing what he does. We did not want to see him getting jumped by townspeople, with which you think in a suburban town they would have all brought their guns.
Right.
Instead, they jumped him with baseball bats, 2x4, and one guy had a revolver.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm just not looking forward to Ends at all.
I'm not either. I was just saying, like, I'm not looking forward to Halloween Ends. I'm just hoping every other thing that comes out that I'm looking forward to isn't a disappointment like Halloween Kills was.
I mean, I think, we have that on one end, and then we have stuff like Candyman on the other end, which, I guess people have deemed more of a spiritual sequel to the first film. But honestly, I thought that movie actually did a pretty good job. There are always going to be people that are going to be complaining about the quote-unquote wokeness of it, but I think it actually added a lot of quality elements to the franchise overall, and it really wasn't that far removed from the actual like themes and narrative of the original film either. So stuff like that.
The original film was woke.
Exactly. So I don't know if people are trying to say that it wasn't, then I don't know what movie they're watching. So stuff like that I think really adds a lot to that franchise, especially because it was so well done. Like cinematography wise, gorgeous, acting wise, great, effects great. I mean, that was just a well thought out sequel in my opinion. Blair Witch as well. I mean, we've got Hocus Pocus 2 coming out. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy that they're also bringing back the Sanderson sisters, and they're not doing some with the one movie with the witches, The Craft, and then what they did with Charmed.
Yeah, I can't really comment about those because I haven't watched them yet, but this is a good example. I mean, Hocus Pocus 2, sure, there's a potential that it could be garbage, but it's really only following up one film. You're bringing back all the same characters. I think it's got a potential to be really exciting. And this is kind of more of the stuff that I want to see. They very easily could have completely remade Hocus Pocus. And I think if they did that, it would not have worked. But the fact that they're doing a sequel now after all these years and bringing back all the same characters and everything, I mean, that gets people hyped, So,
it is just bringing back. It's always about the legacy characters that make these films and having the same feel. It's all nostalgia based, like is why these movies survive. But no matter how much the nostalgia in Halloween Kills, see, that's where it didn't work. You have to do it right. You can't just sell nostalgia. Like you can't just sell Easter eggs and legacy characters and then have no substance and cram it all into one and try to make money off of everyone who's loved this franchise, because you're going to get a lot of pissed off people, as with every other franchise that's deeply held in high regards.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I mean, with Hocus Pocus 2, you have the Sanderson sisters, but you're also going to be introducing a lot of new faces as well. And even if you don't have the Sanderson sisters in like future projects, you have a whole slew of other characters that you can do other sequels with, spin-offs, etc. And those are the kind of things that I think people would appreciate more than stuff like Halloween Kills or remakes. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic. We're running short on time here. So, Sam, do you have anything else you want to say about this particular topic?
I was going to say the reason why these sequels and all this stuff's happening, and then it happens, and then people bitch about it, and then it happens, and then too much fan service and too much nostalgia, and then people complain about originality, and it's like, well, when horror movies bring originality, people just complain about it. Look at The Witch, look at Midsommar, look at Hereditary, look at all these movies that came out that had heart in them, that had passion in them, that were original, and then people were just like, no, not that kind of originality.
Right. And I was going to bring that up before too, actually, and I forgot, but that's another good point. We have all these movies coming out, and I can't even count how many times I've gone on like Facebook and recommended movies to some people, and they don't know what maybe half or more than half of them are, and they're like generally well regarded films, right? Not all of them are like super independent or anything either. And that's the thing, like all of these types of projects based off of these established franchises, like they're going to get out there. They're going to get all this attention because they're so popular. And I mean, that's just part of their appeal and part of their success. And if you can generate, fresh new content for them, which, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's like a lack of originality and stuff like that with like Hocus Pocus 2, right? Like you have the chance to create something new, even though you're like utilizing older characters, you're not doing a remake. That I think, yeah, okay, there's some merit to saying it's not very original, even though you can create stuff like, the Child's Play reboot. But, anyway, I think there is some originality there. But the fact of the matter is, if you've got these like established franchises, they're always going to take up more digital bandwidth, right? And be at the forefront of more of these talking points than anything like Antlers or Possum or whatever, So, I mean, I think there's a place for like both of those types of films, but I mean, I think people just need to cut these movies a little bit more slack because I think they're doing something, kind of cool.
I think so. And I think as long as these sequels keep coming out that have originality to them, like I hope Hocus Pocus has some originality to it rather than it just being nostalgia and Easter eggs being spoon-fed to you. They're just crammed into a fucking movie for 90 minutes.
Agreed.
If it's not that, and if it's something new, something fresh, then it'll work. And then you can keep it alive as long as the actors and the fans want it to be kept alive. Or as long as the studios want it to be kept alive, because why would they give up on their cash cows? You know what I mean? Like, soon as something becomes super popular, it's going to be their cash cow. And they're going to keep trying with it. Even when it fails, they'll reboot it. They'll remake it. They'll make a sequel, ignoring everything else. They'll find a way. They have writers.
Yeah, precisely. So, yeah, guys, that is our discussion on this particular topic. We have Ghostbusters Afterlife coming out this weekend. Most likely, it'll already have been released by the time you're listening to this episode. If you have seen it, let us know what you think about it. I don't know about you, Sam. I'm probably going to go watch it this weekend. And, it would be cool if we could get a review up at some point pretty soon. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I'll try to take a look at it. I work on the weekends. I work Saturday and Sunday all together. I work 28 hours, so try to see if next week on my days off I'll see if I got the time and we can check it out, because I still want to check out Antlers as well. So
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff I got to catch up on. There's Someone Inside Your House or whatever on Netflix, and then there's another movie that got released on Netflix, that one with the guy that gets kidnapped and then he's like a dad or whatever, and then like I don't know the premise of it, like then it's like a kidnapped dad, and there's a few other things. I mean, we had Squid Game, which people can it's not horror, yeah, but it's horrifying, and I would make it a subgenre. I would classify that as a subgenre of horror. That is 100% horror. It's just Saw on a larger scale for money, like.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's just so much stuff coming out. And I mean, horror is still very much alive. And honestly, I think it's still incredibly popular right now. I have missed out on a lot of stuff, and I still plan on watching a lot more movies before the end of the year. I'd still like to get our, kind of end of the year top 10 list up. And I've missed a bunch of stuff. And life's hard, there's just so much content coming out. And that's the thing. You just kind of have to look for all this content because, yes, there are a lot of sequels and prequels and reboots and stuff coming out, but there is also a lot of original content, and it's hard to keep up with.
Speaking of reboots, I don't think a lot of people knew, but I Know What You Did Last Summer just released a series on Prime.
Yeah. Have you watched it?
I watched the first 2 episodes, I believe.
Okay. I've actually heard some... Yeah, I've heard some decent things about it. I haven't gotten a chance to check it out yet, but...
There's no fisherman with the hook, spoiler alert, but...
Okay.
I mean, The book didn't have that either. So
Oh, okay. So does this kind of fall into like our topic today, or is this more of just like a reboot that's closer to the source material?
it doesn't seem. It's not really. It's just something new.
Okay.
I would consider it a reboot because like they're not like looking to restart the franchise and like
Mhm.
continue it. It's just boom, this TV show, and then goodbye. It seems like it's just
Okay.
kind of like, I guess, like you could say mini series. I don't know what they're planning on doing with future episodes and stuff. I think it's just going to be this season and then it's done because I mean,
Mhm.
apparently it had like a very like open and shut feel to it. Like, well, this happened and then this happened and then now it's done. So unless they make a fucking I know what you did last summer, every season someone does something fucked up and then someone knows about it and then they
Yeah.
stalk them, and then I mean shark jumping or
Yeah. It almost wouldn't surprise me, but I think with Amazon they probably won't do that. But I'll try to check it out at some point. You should definitely watch Chucky as well. I think that is honestly a great example. I didn't really talk about it too much in our topic just because you haven't seen it, but that one really does fit into what we were talking about before because it does continue, the lore of the original film series or the film franchise, but it also adds like new elements, new characters, and a lot of new lore as well. So,
it's continuing on after Curse of Chucky, right?
yep. Or cult, technically, yeah.
Cult, yeah, that's where we left off.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And yeah, there's some pretty interesting stuff in it. You have returning favorites, but you also have like these new kids who are kind of, taking over this world as well. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. So guys, we're interested. Let us know what you've been enjoying. I mean, we've been off for a while. There's been a lot of stuff coming out. We're interested in hearing what kind of horror content you've been liking. Maybe there's stuff that we haven't checked out yet. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. It was really, really great sitting here again with you, Sam, even though we're not in the same room. I mean, this is still like almost just as good.
I know.
So, guys, we're going to try to have this episode up very soon for you. If you're listening to it now and have been listening to it, thank you so much. We cannot be here without you. Share it everywhere. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform. Go check out sportsradiodetroit.com. And until next time, I am Barnabas.
And I am Samael.
And we will see you
next time on Grave Discussion. We're back.
This has been an SRD production.